Realize that the most important thing in your life is your health, Bob Gibson said. But if you have good health and your spouse doesn't, it's not very enjoyable. So walking together is a way to take good care of one another. And I can absolutely relate to that story. When I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. for CrossFit, the only thing that makes me go is knowing that Brian, my partner, will be there to hold me accountable. And I think it's good for our relationship too. However, we fully realize that not everybody has this option. If you can't find the right friend to exercise with you, if you don't have a significant other, or if your spouse just doesn't share those similar goals, another option is to consider joining an ongoing, structured group physical activity class. These group classes provide a very similar accountability, even if you don't know your exercise buddies. And it also pushes you to work just a little bit harder than you would if you were on your own. It also prevents boredom. So the ninth strategy, So the ninth strategy is to ditch processed foods. Not only can we prevent weight gain by eating the right foods and avoiding the wrong foods, but the type of foods that we eat may be connected to our success with physical activity. And we realize that it might sound funny to talk about food in a physical activity lecture, but increasing evidence suggests that when we eat white, processed, refined food, it actually makes us want to eat more and store more fat, not go for a walk or burn calories. So examples of what are refined processed foods. Pretty much everything in the middle of the grocery store. Typically the ends are the healthier parts where you find your fresh produce, but everything in the middle. So that's your pasta, your chips, your cookies, your candy, cake, your fruit juices, crackers, flavored yogurts, energy drinks, white bread. And I just want to provide you a very brief understanding of why researchers believe this. So those white, processed, refined foods, they stimulate our body to create a hormone called insulin. That insulin surges in our bodies after we eat those foods. And insulin is the dominant driver of how much we eat, of how much fat we store. It's what's called an anabolic hormone. So it makes us want to grow. It makes us want to eat more, to store more fat. It makes us hungry. And so when we eat those processed foods, our brain is preoccupied and it's not focused on wanting to walk or run. So what can we do about this? We can focus on improving the carbohydrate qualities that we're eating by eating fewer liquid sugars. So things like sodas or those sugary fruit juices, trying to minimize the sweets, eating fewer starches, so fewer potatoes, less refined grains like bread, white pasta, and instead focus more on eating the minimally processed foods, those whole foods, so whole fruits, whole vegetables, whole grains, nuts, legumes, so those are things like beans or lentils. And it's interesting, the same part of the brain, so on the far side, that is the brain that lights up with addictions, with cocaine, with gambling. That exact same part of the brain lights up when we eat those delicious processed foods. And so this really suggests that what we eat has a profound impact on our behaviors. When we eat these processed foods with these potentially addictive properties, it really erodes our ability to make good choices. So the takeaway, try your best to remove those processed foods. And do it again in the same way that we talked about with physical activity. Do it very gradually and do it very specifically. So for example, for 2 weeks, just concentrate on taking out, let's say, sugar in your coffee. Maybe the next 2 weeks, concentrate on removing crackers or chips from your house, specifically and gradually. And the final strategy, so number 10, is no matter what you do, keep going. All of us suffer from lulls, from setbacks, from a lack of enthusiasm. The most important thing is to continue. Have a resolve to meet your goals. Find that inner strength. Find your inner perseverance. If you had a bad week last week, well, try harder this week. If you had a bad day yesterday, if you didn't follow through on your plan, try harder to stick to it today. If you're bored with your routine, figure out how to change it. Add a dog, add music, add a friend, a camera. Just be sure that you get back up when you fall. So we're just going to end with 3 final quotes. Strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from an indomitable will. I may not be there yet, but I'm closer than I was yesterday. And the final quote, it will hurt, it will take time, it will require dedication, it will require willpower. You will need to make healthy decisions. It requires sacrifice. You will need to push your body to its max. There will be temptation. But I promise you, when you reach your goal, it's worth it. Okay, and those are our 10 strategies. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want to share?
One of the things you mentioned on there was doing an activity with someone else or with the group.
Absolutely.
I'm just getting started in this,
Sure.
and one of the things I need is accountability. I'm retired, so I can do it whenever.
Okay.
Do you have a platform where people that want to hook up with other people to exercise on a regular basis can do it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I'll start by providing a couple answers, and Katherine, please add on more. One example is there's something called Walk with a Doc that happens every other Saturday at 9 a.m. at the OIT track. I believe it's the second and fourth Saturday of the month. So that is one option. Another option, if you email Katherine or I, we're trying right now to pair people with a buddy, if you don't have a buddy, so that you can actually figure out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or whatever it may be, with one other person who is also just as dedicated as you, which is important. So please feel free to email us, and we would love to pair you.
And we will be doing a group hike on Saturday at the Running Y at 9 a.m. So it would be a great time to meet people. But we have some information, and if you need our email address, we can provide it to you afterwards.
Leonard, do you have any other ideas?
Well, I know that we have a lot of people that have emailed me that I don't know their routines yet, but I'm trying to get there. I'm hoping that I'll have more information from them as they email me now that these first few weeks have gone by, and maybe I can find out when some of these other people are doing things and get you in the loop with everybody else.
Thank you.
Do you have our email address, one of us? No? Okay, if you can just give yours to us afterwards, we'll
Okay.
email you.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So I've had a couple of people tell me different breakdowns of how, like 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fats. What's your thought? Some say 50, 25, 25.
Absolutely.
What's a good breakdown of that?
I think our main recommendation is eat real food. So if you're counting carbs and calories every day, you can maintain that for a week, maybe months. But you can't maintain that for the rest of your life. And what we really want to recommend is lifestyle changes where you can change the way you eat for the rest of your life. So if it's real, then it's probably good. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, those are going to be good. But if it's processed food, it's probably not good for you. We really like to push that 50% of your plate should have fruits and vegetables on it. So just when you make a meal, think, okay, is this mostly meat? Because then that's really not what we're recommending. Lots of color, 50% fruits and vegetables. And then as little meat as you can do. If you cut out meat once a day, that would be a great goal. And then maybe a couple times a week, cut it out. And when you're choosing meats, red meat is delicious, but not that good for you.
Sure.
And so people who eat red meat regularly have a 13% higher mortality rate. So if you can kind of switch to chicken, poultry, fish, things like that, that'd be good for you.
And just to tack onto that, I completely agree with what Katherine said. I just got back from a week-long conference out at Harvard's focused on obesity and diets and all of this stuff, and it's completely true what Katherine is saying. And when you look at the evidence, when you look at trial comparisons of a high-protein diet, a low-carb diet, a low-fat diet, when you look at all of these diets, they actually all produce weight loss if you stick to it. And if you are eating around that number of calories, which for a female around 1,800, 1,600, 1,800, if you're around there and you're sticking to it and not sneaking in the sweets, the processed foods, no matter which diet you choose, you will lose weight. but really you're gonna get the most nutrition if you're eating
Yes.
real whole foods.
Good question.
Any other questions?
So I just wanted to share, I took psychology of eating this term at OIT, and we read Mindless Eating by Brian Wansett is the guy, and that is a very good book. It really talks about research that he did as far as dieting, how not to just focus on dieting, but rather try to change your habits. He talks about eating out of a 9-inch plate, looking at your cups and making sure that they're not, he calls it the illusionist, where you can compare it to a tall glass with a wide glass. And it's a very good book. It changed my way of how I view things as far as when I go out eating. It doesn't tell you to diet, but it just shows you how to diet without even knowing that you're dieting.
And what was the name of that
It's
one?
called Mindless Eating, and the author is Brian Wansett, Wansik.
Great suggestion. Any other questions?
Yes.
So I've really been trying to add more vegetables and fruit into my diet and eat less processed food. And one way that has really worked for me is to find recipes that sound amazing to me, that I'm really excited to eat, to go home and make, rather than picking up fast food on the way home. And I'm a big Pinterest addict, but there are a lot of other websites that you can use to find healthy recipes. And don't be scared by words like vegan or gluten-free or something. A lot of those recipes are still really delicious, but you don't have to follow the full diet. It's just a great way to not eat processed food.
I think that's a great suggestion. Yeah.
And Nora, does that take up a lot of your time?
No, not at all.
No.
I mean, it's something that I'm doing anyways, just because I'm addicted to Pinterest. If you guys don't know what it is, you should try it. But last night, my boyfriend and I had to do a big grocery shopping trip. We didn't get home until way later than we normally would have. But when I got home, I made a chicken and cauliflower and carrot roasted Indian spiced just meal, and it was so good. It was absolutely delicious. We have leftovers that we're going to mix with whole wheat pasta instead of white pasta for tonight's dinner, and it's just kind of nice to be able to find new recipes that I still get excited about that are much better for me.
That's great. That's great. And if you want to send some suggestions, we could share them on the Facebook page so other people can try them too.
Yeah, that sounds good.